Welcome to another installment of our channel. Today we have prepared something special for all lovers of movie magic and emotions. We will present you with 5 films that will touch your hearts to the depths and make you cry with emotion. Ready for a journey through stories full of unforgettable moments, feelings, and emotions? Get your tissues ready, because today we will discover together how powerful these extraordinary film productions are. We invite you to experience together the emotions that connect us with the characters on the screen and that will stay with us forever. Number 1. Green Mile. Memories of the Green Mile stir up mixed feelings for the aged Paul Edgecomb at a nursing home for the elderly. After a screening of Top Hat, he shares his experiences with his friend Elaine Connolly. He recounts his days in the summer of 1935 as a guard at a Louisiana prison where he watched over convicts awaiting execution. The block where he worked was known as the Green Mile, from the color of the linoleum covering the floor. In the foreground is an electric chair called Old Spark, awaiting its victims. Soon John Coffey, huge and black, is brought to this ward, accused of murdering 2 white girls. Coffey turns out to be a gentle giant who is afraid of the dark and sometimes cries. He also soon reveals his extraordinary healing abilities, curing Paul Edgecomb of cystitis and even restoring the life of a mouse. Percy Wetmore, played by Doug Hutchison, is a prison guard character characterized by cruelty and inflicting suffering on others. His influence on the prison is significant, as he has an influential uncle who has secured him this position, which makes it not easy to remove him from his job. In exchange for agreeing to the execution, he promises to move elsewhere. During the execution, he deliberately ignores the sponge soak, which leads to the cruel death of the condemned man, Edouard Delacroix, causing panic among the observers. The guards use John's healing powers to save the life of the prison warden's wife. Upon his return, John transfers the disease to Percy Wetmore to punish him for what he did to Edouard Delacroix. As a result of John's influence, a completely confused Percy kills one of the prisoners, Wild Bill, played by Sam Rockwell, and is placed in an insane asylum. Paul realizes that John is innocent and the trial was just a formality, but he lacks concrete evidence. The execution must take place, however. Before his death, John watches the same video that Paul saw at the beginning of the film. This was the last execution that Paul and Brutus attended, after which they both moved to work at the House of Correction, and whoever is new...
What are these angels? Angels just like up in heaven.
Be sure to click subscribe at the bottom to receive notifications of new videos. Number 2. Up. Animated cartoons are often associated with joy, carefree, and positive emotions. However, sometimes there are stories that penetrate deeper, touching on more complex topics such as separation, loneliness, and loss. One such moving production is the animated film Up, which with its beauty and sadness evokes deep emotions in viewers. Up tells the story of a little boy named Gus, who lives with his father, a charming elderly man, in a lonely house on the edge of the forest. Their daily life is filled with harmony and shared moments that build their unique bond. However, Gus's idyllic life is shattered when his father suddenly dies. The boy is left alone, abandoned and helpless in the face of the difficulties that loneliness brings. The main theme of the film Up is the process of coping with grief and loneliness. The audience witnesses the experiences of Gus, who has to face the sudden loss of his beloved father and find the meaning of life in a new, hopelessly empty reality. Intertwined emotions such as sadness, longing, helplessness, and pain appeal to viewers on a deeply human level. Up stands out not only for its rich emotional content, but also for its superb animation, which adds depth and intensity to the story. Beautiful landscapes, carefully designed characters, and subtle visual details create an atmosphere that heightens the feelings accompanying the characters on their journey through grief and loneliness. Number 3. Forrest Gump.
Maybe both is happening at the same time. I miss you, Jimmy.
Forrest Gump is one of those rare film productions that is capable of touching the deepest emotions of the viewer, provoking reflection on the human fate and condition. This film, made in 1994 under the direction of Robert Zemeckis, still remains one of the most moving works of cinematography. The main character, Forrest Gump, is a man with limited intellectual abilities who nevertheless travels through life, surprising not only himself, but also everyone around him with his extraordinary strength of will and kindness of heart. The story of Forrest Gump is about America in the 1960s and 1970s, full of symbolic moments and unusual coincidences. Forrest Gump is filled with emotions such as sadness, loneliness, loss, and longing. Throughout the story, we accompany Forrest on his life journey, in which he experiences many difficulties and losses. Sadness awakens in us as we see him struggling with the difficulties that life's challenges bring him, such as the loss of a loved one or disappointment. However, there is also beauty in this sadness, as it allows us to appreciate the strength of the human spirit and the determination that Forrest shows in the face of adversity. In addition to Forrest Gump, there are other characters who contribute to the emotional growth of our journey through the film. Jenny, Forrest's beloved, is a woman struggling with the demons of her past and striving to find her own place on Earth. Her tragic story and struggle with addiction add depth and sadness to the film. Forrest Gump brings a message of hope, even though sadness is present at every turn. Through Forrest's story, we learn that even the most innocent souls can survive the most difficult times, if only they believe in themselves and stick to their values. This is a film about courage, perseverance, and sacrifice, which shows that even in the darkest moments of life, one can find a spark of hope. Number 4. The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. Throughout the film, we accompany Bruno and Shmuel in their heartfelt but tragic friendship, which reminds us of the terrible consequences of war and hatred. We see how innocent souls fall prey to the cruelty of the adult world. The Boy in the Striped Pajamas not only tells the story of two boys during the Holocaust, but also raises questions about morality, human dignity, and the need for empathy. Through the innocent eyes of Bruno and Shmuel, we see how absurd are the racial and ideological divisions that lead to unimaginable tragedy. The film reminds us of the importance of tolerance, love, and compassion in the face of human suffering. Its sad but telling story reminds us of the need to build a better, more empathetic world, free of hatred and violence. It is a masterpiece of filmmaking that remains in the memory forever, evoking strong emotions and prompting action for peace and understanding. Number 5. Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan is a film that shocks the viewer by showing the costs and tragedies of war while reminding us of heroic deeds and human solidarity. Director Steven Spielberg's epic production takes us into the middle of World War II, where we are mercilessly confronted with the brutality of the conflict and the heroism and sacrifice of soldiers. The film is set in the year 44 as the Allies proceed to invade Normandy. The main character, Corporal John H. Miller, is given the task of finding and rescuing Private James Ryan, who is the only survivor among 4 brothers, all of whom died on the war fronts. Miller's mission becomes extremely difficult and full of dangers, but at the same time becomes a symbol of hope and human sacrifice. We see how the heroes face the terrible challenges of war, losing friends and colleagues. Through the dramatic fate of the heroes, the film shows the costs of war and the tragedies that armed conflict brings. At the same time, it also shows the power of solidarity and heroism, which allows people to survive even the most difficult moments. I leave you a dantation to the 2 previous films of the best comedies, as well as the scariest horrors.